Hey guys, it's a little video. This is beyond the latex thing. Um, Today I got into doing my plugs for the weird shapes, make the mother molds easier. The proto putty, lots of videos on how to make proto putty. So I'm not going to get into that, but I did learn a couple of things with the proto putty. So what I've done is I made plugs for the elephant for all three sides. Didn't do the front, so my plan is to do a seam across the top of the ears, down and out, and then down the other side of the ear and out. Actually down and towards the back of the ear here, and down and out. And then one down the very center of them. So it'll be four pieces, four sections. Because of the shapes or so, it makes it actually pretty awkward. And I want this to come apart very easily on either side of the elephant. And then one right straight down the back. That's why I did the one for around the tail, because the tail wrapping under here would give me a lot of problems. The grasshopper here, did two-piece rubber plug for this. One goes underneath to fill in the void underneath there. Well, it could have been done without the plugs or so, but it's just a lot less strain on parts. Oops. Guess that doesn't work like that. You put them in the right order as they overlap. The less strain on the thin parts, so they don't get broken when I'm getting the mold out. So that's the way that one sits. Or so mixed up the food coloring bottle, so I got two colors, which is actually kind of handy, but wasn't intentional. I'll take that back off right there. Couple of things that actually I will mention. So when doing the fill on the latex, I don't know if this is going to show up too well. I'll try to get the lighting in a better way here. Where the fill was done with the pillow filler fiber, it stays very. You can see actually. I don't know if this will pick up, but if I push the top, you see the bottom bulge. It's still very, very soft. Like there's 14 layers or 13 layers of latex underneath it. Then the filler, then there's 2 layers of latex over top. But because there's no air penetrating, no matter how much heat I put in, that'll take forever to cure. So I'm gonna have to be very, very careful. Shouldn't affect the shape in any way if it does get distorted, but I'm gonna be really, really careful. It could take literally months for that to completely cure. When you compare that down to the pig on a pillow, I didn't do the pillow fiber. I used pieces of the rubber spills and stuff like that, and drops and all that. Picked them all up. And actually, what I did is I got a fridge downstairs, and I actually took my brush and I painted up the side of the fridge. And when it dries in the half hour or so, I peeled it off and I just crunched it up into thing because it sticks to itself, and I used that to fill in the voids underneath here. And then I latexed over top of that. So I put a coat of latex underneath first to put that stuff in. Then I latexed it, I caked it in there so it sealed it up. And that became really, really firm, really, really nicely. I think that's the way I'll go in the future. I won't use the pillow fiber. This is a lot more reliable. And the problem usually is you don't have any of the latex floating around. Like, that's relatively fresh. But on the side of the fridge, on a smooth surface, perfect solution. Fix that problem up for it. So what I've done for the pig on the pillow, I just covered his feet just because they would have created knobs. So this one's going to be a part right through down the top, and then it's going to come down the 2 ears. I'm trying to remember how I actually decided to do, because I didn't want it to go from side to side. Actually, I'm going to go up to 1 ear across, and I'm going to go diagonally down to the far corner. So there's only two corners, because both sides would lock if I did that. So 2 sides like that, then down the face here, and then the other side will wrap around to the other corner. The cat and mouse, I've got two pieces. I'm trying to remember which way they go now. This was for the bottom here. So this piece here goes underneath here, so I can't do this one hand or so without knocking things over. And then this piece slides in over top, and that supports the mouse in the back. So then my casting will be basically front and back or so. That's all that's going to take for the mother mold. I got to do a little bit of pruning away from this or so, because it's a little snug to get out of there. Probably take some off the bottom of it. I think it's pushed down a little bit too much onto it. The other things are so they don't need anything special. These are just drop molds or so that'll sit over top of them. The vault from my dad, What I'm going to do with this, I've got a plastic box that I had inside a pot that was inside of here. I'm going to take and I'm going to make either a fiberglass or a plastic gauze liner on the inside of that, and then pull it out of that plastic part, and then it'll sit in here because it's designed to sit in the concrete part on the other side. That's not what the latex fit. So that'll allow it to slip inside, and I'll cut that off even with the top of the latex, and then my mother mold will come up the corner on this side. So basically it'll cover, back up enough, it'll cover these two sides, the bottom and up over the edge, and it'll hold that insert in place because it'll overlap it. It'll overhang just like my fingers are overhanging here. And then the other side I'll do the same. So when I have it laying upside down, it'll have a flat surface first off to be able to pour it and pour it level. And then once the two sections come off, then the pot will come out of the plug will come out of them. But I was going to use the expanding foam. I bought the smooth on I think it's a 10X that I bought or so to use for that, but I decided not to. So I figured first of all, that stuff's expensive to fill a hole this size, and I decided not to. The wagon, a couple of little discoveries or so, disappointments or so, I guess in some ways. Not a major problem, but some. When I was taking the plug, I made three plugs to this. One's a massive plug that fits on this side here. To make it easier to line it up so this doesn't flop around, this is actually a threaded bolt that's underneath this green tape. And that, when I put the fiberglass over top of this, I'll have a washer and a nut, and that'll attach this to the fiberglass. So it'll keep it aligned where it needs to be aligned, so it doesn't sag, or it would sag the other way because it'd be upside down. Hopefully that solves that problem because there's one on either side. It doesn't really matter because it won't affect the shape. It's just I don't want it to sag downwards, because if it sags downwards, the water will pool in here in the outdoors. But when I was getting this out of here, it's a pretty snug fit, and I was prying at it actually with the screwdriver and doing the thing that I know I tell people not to do. But just like what Webb's always saying about using the thumbnail test, here's a good example of an area that should theoretically be completely dry, because this was dried beautifully between coats. But even after 2 days of 100-degree temperatures in here, you can see the indents where it didn't come back from me prying with the screwdriver to pry this out. Now this is on a wagon wheel, so it's not going to affect it. Just so much rubber to affect the pour in the end, because it's still on the master. But it's like, it goes to show you how long some things take to cure up. Because like if I do the thumbnail test, I don't know if I can get a good, if I got a thumbnail to do it with here. We got anything that actually here. Do with a key. If I take and push a key into it, you can see it's still leaving a little bit of a dent. Not much. It's bringing back almost right away, but it shouldn't do that at all. Or so when it's fully cured, it should be nice and solid. Not doing it. And that's why I did it here. Same area here. I used some of that foam fill, and it's got that same spongy feel to it. There's some of that foam underneath here too that's still soft. It's hardening up quite a bit now. But that type of thing. The front of this, there's a lip under here and up a little bit. It's latex. It's thoroughly latex, but it left a lip because it was drooling down the front of this, and left a sort of a drool. Well, that created a big problem for this plug. Which way does this plug go into? For this plug to, no, it goes in this way. For this plug to fit in and to be removable and one reasonable. Sorry about the shaky hands. It's hard to do this in with one set of hands. So I trimmed away some of the plug. It's going to affect the shape, the bulging, a little bit of the latex when I pour. But again, it's an underside that if someone's noticing that, then well, they're way too close to the ornament than they need to be. But I may cut this in half and have it in 2 sections. I may play around with that a little bit. But this way, when I do the mother mold for this, I may be able to get away with, and back away from this, with a plug in here and this plugged in and covering all out here. I may be able to do and get away, because this is just only like 3/4 of an inch, and it's got a taper to it. So I may be able to get away with a plug that goes up and over. At least on this side. This side might be a little tricky because of this one bump, because if the thing goes down, it'll cause a problem there. It's small, so it may just pop free. The knobs on the wheels are probably the biggest problem that'll hold things in place. So still deciding whether I do 2 halves or if I break it into 4. I may end up doing it in 4. It probably makes more sense. Safer to do that. So if I come up through the middle all the way across and then split it down the side here, that means I'm only fighting with one wheel hub at a time, trying to get the cover off of it. Doesn't affect the plugs in any way, and actually, 30% of the coverage for the seam on the mother mold is over the plugs, which it doesn't affect the look in any way. These are all going to sit now for a couple of weeks or so. It's way too cold here for me to be able to do any fiberglassing, and that's definitely not something I can do in my bathroom shop. It's definitely going to be wait until it's at least 10 degrees at night or so for that. And we're calling for freezing temperatures tonight, so it's all over the place. We've been on a hell of a roller coaster for temperatures this year. But anyways, that's a little follow up on where I'm at or so. The plugs that I made or so, the silicone that I use. I'm going to give you an idea of how much of these I've made. I went through 15 tubes of silicone to do this, and several things like cornstarch and some food coloring to make the plugs. So it's one of those things where the trade-off for the cost of because silicone is not cheap. The trade-off for the cost of the silicone versus the amount of difficulty and risk of breaking things, pulling them off, is pretty high. It's like this one here, I thought about, okay, can I skip the bottoms of the elephant and just encase the nose on both sides and over the back of it, because the ears have got this back, so if you look at it from this way, there's a negative draft that's coming in around the back of this. So that's why if I cut the seam over the ear and then across the back like this, I will be able to pull it off diagonally like this and not have a problem. There'll be enough wiggle room with this out. But if this was indented in 3 inches, then there was no way I would ever be able to pull this off diagonally, because this leg would completely interfere with it. Even now it'll be a little bit snug, but there's enough rubber thickness there that I should be able to pry it and pop it off. May have to do a little bit of playing around. Worst case scenario, I end up having to cut the mother mold and make an extra flange down the middle after it's done. But the other side's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. My biggest concern is to be able to get the detail with the ears and the nose, the shape and stuff like that, and not have them break when I take them off. This is the one side that's going to be a little risky. When it comes up to the middle like this and across here, taking this side off of here, because it's going to be wrapped around this corner here, it's going to be a little tricky. It's a small piece, so hopefully it's going to have enough sort of wiggle room to flex on the rubber to be able to get it off. Anyways, that's it for tonight. Take care.